Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We are here with a session that is going to focus on what you need and the questions that you have about Google Meet and Google Classroom. So my name is Terra Cowham. I will let my other two co-hosts introduce themselves. But as we continue on to the session, anything that you have and you want to ask, please feel free to put that into the comments. And the three of us will do our best to answer them in the order that we receive them and lump them together as needed. So Barb, I'll let you start.
Well, I'm Barb, and I'm just looking at us. We all have dark tops on the bottom, so I'm glad we all have different colors behind us. You look like kind of one at the bottom there. I'm Barb. I'm currently at Darden, but I've also spent a number of years at Lincoln and at Clay Middle, Intermediate, International Academy.
Okay. I'm Jen Vanhaver. I am the DIS at Measle Elementary School. I've been there for 25 years, lots of experience in the classroom, so we're here to help.
Yes. So if you guys want to just start putting some of your questions into the chat, then the three of us with our lovely three-headed monster that we have going on here with our dark shirts, we will do our best to answer those for you. And I see, ladies, that we have our first question about posting recorded sessions in Google Classroom. So they would like to know possibly maybe some of the workflows and best practices for that. Does anyone want to take that one?
Well, I can say one of the issues that's been happening to some teachers, but not others. Some teachers are just posting the link to their recorded session directly, and everybody's able to access it. And others are posting it, and they're getting people saying they can't access it. So I don't know, Jen, if you're having that issue. If you
I have had a few of those.
I don't know what the difference is between what they're doing. I've even had teachers take that Meet recording where all of the recordings automatically go and make that whole folder shareable. So everything that goes in there is shareable. And we're still hearing that issue.
Yeah, so what I would do is, if that's going to be becoming an issue, is when you go to, you can also attach that, but I would change my sharing settings and just make sure that it says anyone with the link. So it doesn't say restricted on it or only South Bend schools. And then those recordings that you're going to share in that Meet folder, you can click on those, open them up, click the three dots, just like you would do a normal kind of changing of the settings from your drive. It doesn't have a big share button. You could do it that way. If you are using Screencastify instead of using Meet, or if you're using, then you'll have a shareable code. If you're using QuickTime, then you'll have to upload that video into your drive and then follow all of those steps the same way. If that doesn't answer your question, please send something in the chat and let us know.
And it does seem like everything that you are doing is coming up as restricted. So pretty much every single thing that you do have to go in and change that setting to South Bend.
And I will say this, there is some delay. So we've known this. There's just the way that videos are processed in Drive, it's not going to be ready immediately. So after you've recorded that, it takes about, I don't know, anywhere, I'd say about less than 15 minutes or so for that video to appear in your drive. But sometimes it takes a full 24 hours before people can see them. Just the size of the video, how it's processed. Sometimes it's immediate. That could be another issue that's going on if it's a problem with accessing it. But as far as posting them in a Google Classroom, you could post that as a link. That would probably be the easiest thing for your students to access that.
And just to be real clear, because we're getting emails that it's ready, but it is in your Google Drive. There's automatically a folder created that's called Meet Recordings. And so that's where you go to get that recording, to get that link. And you can also change the name of that recording if you want to say, whole group instruction from Thursday, August 18th. You can change the name, and that's where you would go to get the link. There was a question before that one about the grid view extension. Anita has added the grid view extension and still can't see all of her students.
Mine's not working either. And I even went through to the extension and I clicked on the fix. There's a fix one. Hey, Chase, would you mind sharing my screen? So there is a fix on the extension. Let me go here. And it was called the Google Meet Grid View Fix. So I installed that. Let's see if it will take me. Let's see if it'll take me to the web store. But so this one was working, but now it's saying that I have to kind of reinstall it. When I was on a Meet today, I automatically moved it to Tile, and I was able to see like the 15 people that were in the Meet with us today. So if that is, if you've uninstalled it, reinstalled it, try to do the fix, and it's still not working, those updates are coming with the Google Meet updates when they are rolling those out. I don't know what the date is on that rollout. But I would read
the expanded grid view, I think I saw was in September.
Okay. So hopefully it's coming very, very, very soon. Again, just that, unfortunately, that extension has been a little hit or miss, but I would try uninstalling it, reinstalling it, and get that fix one that's green versus the black and white one.
And I've seen it does say when you go to open it up, it says this isn't the right version you should have of it, or click here. And when I did click there and get the other one, that's the one that didn't work. So I said, no, I'm keeping this one that you're telling me is wrong. And I'm going to knock on wood, it has worked more consistently for me. But yeah, that's an issue that everyone is sharing.
Yes, unfortunately. But again, we are going to get all of the updates that Google is rolling out. So let's hope in a week we get that rollout.
Darcy is saying she made sheets in Google Sheets, and I'm thinking she added a picture of a bookcase and put links in it. And the adults she invited to her classroom said they can't access, I would assume, the links or maybe the file. So I think there it is. I think this is a sharing issue. Again, the same thing with the recordings. Every single link that you add to that sheet has to be shareable. The whole slide has to be shareable, and every link you add has to be shareable.
So what I'm going to do is, of course, it's going to be really, really slow, but as soon as you make one recording in your drive, you are going to get a folder that says Meet. Now, please don't mind my very, very full Google Drive.
And this is the same thing you can do for any of the links that you're sharing that are in a folder. Because I think she's asking about something else, but so
Correct.
We're going to tie those two together.
Correct. So you'll see that I have this, right? And so you can click on any of these. And when you are going to open it up, you'll have all of these shortcuts. But you'll have to go into this, and I don't really want to start. Let me see. Maybe we could try and see if this one, sorry, Rosa, if this is your face. Yep. Okay. So if you go into that, these three dots, you can share it this way.
Okay with me, but if you can just forward that to me, that would be okay.
Oh, sorry.
Just want to try if that it's part of what the problem was
I'm
yesterday.
sorry. She's sorry.
Okay with me, but.
Sorry, Rosa. So if you go to share like this, then you're going to see that it says restricted. You just click here. That will allow you to change it to anyone with the link. And so the reason I choose, someone had asked us, the reason I choose anyone with the link is because if students are accessing this from their parents' phone, or if maybe like you have other co-teachers who are not using their South Bend school email, then it's going to cause problems with the access. So you would choose anyone with the link. If there's something that you do want limited, of course you have this. You'll just have to sometimes deal with some of those questions. And if you want to share, let's just say,
Tara, before you do that, would you go back to that Meet recording folder for me and just close the folder so we just see just the folder?
Like in my drive?
Yeah.
Yep.
So what I'm telling them to do is to select just the folder and click on it once.
Right here?
Yep. And then go up to the sharing settings on the People Plus, and you can change the sharing settings for everything that's in that folder.
Oh, see, look, our bandwidth problems are still with us. So then you can just do that the same way. Anyone with the link.
So then I believe every time a new recording goes in that folder, it has those sharing permissions already. So you don't have to do it for every individual recording.
Mm-hmm.
You can see if you look at the folder now, it has the little person on it.
You guys see that one? Okay. And then if you're going to do, it's the same thing. If you have issues with, I'll open this one up. If you have issues with people being restricted from things, again, I would go ahead and just change that to anyone with the link.
We have another question about the easiest way, or is there an easy way to put students in groups in Google Classroom?
When you are to keep them kind of where only certain assignments come to them, or?
Well, it would be extremely helpful for specials teachers who have all classes in one grade in one classroom. So they have all of 4th grade, but they're only going to see Mr. Smith's class on Tuesday. So is there a way? I don't think there is. Is there a way to make groups in Google Classroom?
No, but what you can do is assign to specific students. So if there's a way that maybe like you had given the example of a special teacher, they could assign it to perhaps the 30 kids that are in, Barb's class, and then the next day they could assign it to the 30 kids who are in Jen's class.
Which is a pain. So what our specials teachers did here at Darden, which took a lot of time in the beginning, but it solved all of that pain every time you want to assign, is they actually made a Google class for every single different classroom. And then when you assign something to one 4th grade classroom, when you're in the next 4th grade classroom, you can just reuse that post, and Tara can show us how to do that. So you just copy that post 4 times to the different classes so that you don't have to keep recreating class. It takes a long time in the beginning, but it really does save you a lot of time when you are pushing out assignments.
You also, so if this was, let's say that it is, what special should we do? Art.
Art's perfect.
Love art, and it's easy to write. So I can give some instructions and say, draw and post. If I am that special teacher, when it says 4, right, I can pretend that these are all my classes. So this is Tara's class, this is Jen's class, this is Barb's class. I can select multiple classes at one time, and I can shoot it off, the same assignment, one time to all these different classes. Now, if you want to schedule something, so if you know that you're special, you want your assignment to appear at a certain time, or change anything, then you're going to have to do those separately, schedule those separately, but this will allow you to post all on the same day, all to multiple classes. Here,
so a lot of time in the beginning making your classes, but really a time saver as you move on. So you've got to kind of, where do you want to spend? Where do you want it to be a pain?
And you can also copy your classes from Google Classroom. So you can just create one template, copy it. I don't know, let's say that there's 4 1st grade teachers. You copy it 4 times, and then you just can alter the name. And here's where you would choose the students that you would like to assign it to. So you could just assign it to one particular student or a whole group of students.
All right. Is there a way you can, oh, there you go. Thanks. Chase is on it.
When you're in present mode, of Google Meet. So when you're in Google Meet and you're presenting, so this is going to be fun. I'm going to present while I'm presenting. I'm sorry for this. Here we go. I'm going to turn my mic off. You can turn off, you can see what you see or what you're presenting. You can see a small screen as you're presenting in your people view. So you won't see it on the big screen. You'll see it in the people view. So if I join this.
So she's asking, how can you see what a student is seeing? Because a student is telling her their screen is black.
Right. So the screen that you're presenting shows up as a second person on your list. So as soon as I start presenting, let me just present this. So you see how I'm only one person up here? So when I present a window or whatever I'm presenting, let's choose this one. It's going to pop up, as soon as this loads, it's going to pop up a second little square that's going to show me what the presentation screen looks like. Okay, this is making my computer freak out. So we're going to stop this one. Okay, so basically you can see that in the people view. You'll see what your presentation screen looks like.
And you can also take your whole window and just shrink it to half size and then open up another same size window and put them next to each other. And then you can present from that other window and you can see your class and you can see what you're presenting. But if I have a student telling me what they're seeing is black, I'm going to ask them to share their screen so that I can look and see what they're looking at and I can kind of talk them through. That's the only way I can see what they're saying they're seeing is if I say, well, would you present your screen so that I can see it and then walk them through. Maybe they're in a different tab or something.
Yeah, or you can always ask them, sometimes it's just the way that the connection happens. You could tell them to leave and then rejoin. That might kind of trigger something that maybe didn't get worked in the coding when they logged on. It could be a lot of things. If it's a consistent issue, then I would present with a co-teacher or your DIS to see if there's something that's going on with the way that perhaps you're doing the presentation or something going on with your side of the computer.
We had a question about editing. Oh, Chase is really on it. Is there a way to edit a recording? Miss Dillon is saying she's had kids in the background, inappropriate language, distractions. Is there any way to edit a recording?
Yes. So unfortunately, it does take a few extra steps. My suggestion is to download that recording. Don't post it yet. Leave it in that folder. Download it, open it up, or import it into iMovie. And iMovie is very simple. You can clip out sections. So if it's like maybe a couple words that shouldn't be there, you can use your cursor and there's an easy way that you can mark this, even just a couple seconds. And you clip that out of there and it's, it'll have that transition. You won't notice, you'll notice the edited out part, but it's not going to be a glitch or anything like that. And then you just re-upload that into your drive, and that's the one that you would post to your classroom. This is also, if you have some things in the beginning or the tail end of your video, you can clip those off. You can also insert in iMovie like maybe little title sections. So if you're doing something that is longer than a 20-minute video, or longer than a 5-minute video and you want to piece them all together, then you can do little title bars in iMovie. It's very easy to use. And if you don't have iMovie, you can get that from the South Bend kiosk, which is the South Bend icon at the very top of your MacBook, kind of near where the time and the battery are.
And I think also what it's recording is not what you're seeing on your screen. When you do the recording from Google Meet, it records whoever is speaking and it records what's being presented. So if students all have their microphones on and there's background noise in their house, every time it picks up that background noise, their face and their screen pops up. So when you're presenting, it's really important that you make sure students all have their microphones off, and then that will eliminate their picture popping in and hearing any background noise.
Yes, and I will say that if you're using Google Meet from your Google Classroom, then you, the creator, and the co-teacher would have the controls, whichever one, whoever logs in first as a teacher. So if your co-teacher and you, or your aide and you are both teachers on the Google Classroom, then you both have the same permissions, but whoever gets into that meet or initiates that meet is the one who has the controls. Remember that whoever initiates that meet, either teacher, can mute everyone. You just can go in there and you can mute them and you can remove them. So if kids are not understanding how to mute themselves, just go in there and mute it, because like Barb said, the recording side can get distracting because it's full screen. And so anyone who's not attending is going to see full screen of the students who maybe are having background noise, if it's the TV or someone talking or something going on, and the teacher will not be in that screen. Okay, so I get it. So there's a lot of questions about the anyone with a link. What I mean by this is that, so sometimes people are saying that they're having issues with people accessing it. If it's posted in your Google Classroom, then those students are the ones who would access it in that closed environment. To be able to be in that Google Classroom, they have to be logged in. I guess I should be more clear. When I'm talking about anyone with a link, sometimes it's like with slides or with the sheets or anything like that. Sometimes those sharing settings will get a little bit, they can be a little bit difficult on a cell phone or on a tablet. But when you're in Google Classroom, that is restricted. So only the people who have access to that Google Classroom are the people that you've enrolled as students. Guardians do not have access to that Google Classroom. They only have access to the summary of their particular student. And so if you have a parent as a student in your class, they need to be removed. And you would just let them see the guardian summaries. Now, because parents are co-teaching with our students, they're going to be sitting next to your student logged into that Google Classroom. They will be viewing that recording with them. They will be helping them. But as far as changing your restrictions, right, it's within a closed environment. And I was just offering another solution to say if it's something that's kind of wonky, or people are trying to access a Google form or something like that, that's not allowing them to enter in that, you can change that to anyone with the link. As Katie said, there are ways that you can, in the settings of that sharing bubble or that menu, you can switch it so that no one can copy, print, or download basically your document if you're worried about that.
Ms. Kreider is asking about being glitchy. Students saying she's glitchy and choppy.
So basically my suggestion is that, everyone's on the internet right now across the entire nation, across the entire world. So our internet speeds are being sucked differently used differently than we're normally used to. The best thing that you can do is to close down all unnecessary tabs. So only keep open the tabs that you need for that specific lesson. Meet, maybe a Google slide, maybe you have something with a doc. I wouldn't keep a YouTube open. I would close that and only open that if there's something that you're going to be showing the kids real quick on how to access something on YouTube, try and limit what's open.
And we also don't have any control over the students' internet capabilities that they have in their home. So it could be that they don't have a really good internet connection. Someone's asking about the effective learning PD that was scheduled at the same time as this one, 12 o'clock, saying it's locked. Okay.
So with anything that has to do with special education or students with accommodations or, kind of speech language therapy that has to do with student privacy, you're going to need to talk to special ed department about what those parameters are for what those teachers are able to have as far as classrooms. Okay, so in a Google Meet, you would download that Google Meet as a record from your drive. You import it into iMovie. iMovie is super, super easy to use. And then in iMovie, there are very simple controls that will allow you to move like the play cursor to the section that you want. And then you can read more about the controls, and then you can just clip out like little seconds at a time. You can separate things into two different sections. Like if you're presenting and you're doing instruction, and let's say your instruction is going well over 20 minutes and it's going to be too long for the students to kind of attend to if they need to review that work or that video, you can break it up into sections. And so all of those I guess features exist in iMovie, and if there's something particular that you would like after kind of getting in there, feel free to reach out and I will gladly share with you some tips and tricks for iMovie.
And I'm going to check. I may have a video that I created on editing like a Meet or something in iMovie. I'm not positive, but I'll check and see. If I do, I will send that out to all the DIS to share.
If your aide is a teacher in your Google Classroom and that aide initiates the Google Classroom Meet, they would have control to mute students as the teacher is instructing.
There have been a lot of questions that I've gotten too about student teachers and how they can get access to the Google Classroom and the Google Meet. And I know we talked about that earlier this year, but I don't know if there's a definitive question that's been worked out. Maybe someone in the chat even knows what they've done for their student teacher.
I know I had a student teacher 2 years ago, and once that student teacher, the corporation said they can have a school email. Once they got the email, they were able to log in to the Google Classroom and everything, but they had to have a South Bend email address to be able to do that. And that was 3 years ago. So something could have changed, but back then, student teachers got a SB email and then joined the Google Classroom.
Is Tara frozen, or is she just really?
No, I was just reading. I was really sorry.
You know what the policy is on student teachers and South Bend accounts and accessing the Google products?
So when we've had them at the high school, the teachers did not want that student teacher accessing logging in using their credentials. Mm-hmm. We cannot get them access to anything that is kind of rostered or powered by PowerSchool. So in Google Classroom, they can be added as a co-teacher. Like I can have my personal email in my Google Classroom. Correct. And so they will not be given SBCSE emails probably ever. It turns into a situation where then they're indicated, like in our data reporting, it looks like they're teachers and they're not teachers, and it's just a big mess. So the problem is they won't be able to get into like the grade book. They won't be able to access certain things that are linked through PowerSchool, but they will be able to work in the Google Classroom. So they could update the grades in the Google Classroom grade book. They can respond to students. You know, you would just tell the families that you have a student teacher.
Ruth, I believe you can download that from home.
Yeah.
Just go to your kiosk and download it.
Let me go over here. So over here, this is the kiosk right up here. And you would just click install software. And you're going to see that you have all of the apps that are Apple products. And so you would just install this. Depending on your internet speed right now, it might take a while. You would just click install and then it would be ready to go. And so for those of you guys who went to the asynchronous, the blended learning with Michelle Eaton, I did all those separations and those clicks, or of the clips in the movies with iMovie. You just watch it, stop your cursor where you want it to stop. You can do Command B and it'll split it. If you want to do multiple sections of things, you would just make copies of that project and then you can like edit and rename them. Yeah, but the problem is I wouldn't present a video in Google Meet. There's a lot of lag on that, and it just doesn't kind of come through quickly. If there's a video that you want your students to watch, then I would leave that link in a Google Classroom assignment.
You could even put the link in the chat. Mm-hmm. With the students' mics muted, they could watch it. If you're wanting it to be a discussion or something during your Google Meet,
yeah,
the link in your chat, have them have their microphone off and they can watch it and then come back in the chat and talk about it.
The sound will come through. I mean, it's fine. It's just sometimes there's a lag. Again, it just depends if you're at school, like if something's happening. Sometimes there's a lag, sometimes there's sound quality issues, but that video will show, just like I can show a video through this presentation right here or on a slideshow, that's fine. If it's causing issues, I would recommend just putting that link into the chat or a Google Classroom assignment. Thank you, Katie. Yes, there could be a lot of factors. There's probably other things that you could do in the meantime. I just recommend iMovie because it's within your own, it's on your MacBook, it's ready to go, it's super easy, and it's, I don't know, it's very user-friendly.
Is it giving you an error message that says, oh, it always says get license?
I would say please put in a help desk ticket.
I think we hit all the questions we have so far.
Whoa. There's gotta be more. Again, please, keep your recordings. Just, you can leave them with SBCSC with your sharing. Your other documents, if they're having issues, try putting them with anyone with the link. Keep everything in your Google Classroom so that there is privacy. Please don't let parents be in that Google Classroom as a student. They would be as a guardian. All communications should just go from parent email or guardian email to you with your email versus through Google Classroom, unless you're speaking on behalf of your student. But if it's between parent or guardian and teacher, make sure it's through your guys' emails.
And Tara, I know I've had a lot of questions at my school, but students are allowed to keep their cameras off as part of the privacy.
Oh, yes.
So I don't know if you want to touch on that too. I've had questions about that.
Yes.
I've made sure that I've told all the teachers, students do have that option to not turn their camera on. We cannot mandate that they have to have those on.
No. That is not in our guidelines. That is not a requirement. And students are not required to turn on a computer. Points should not be assigned or given based on whether a camera is on or off. Just like students are not required to attend a live meeting. That's why we are recording them and putting them onto our Google Classroom. And the other thing I want to say is, especially with the elementary level, we do a lot of things with community building. We do a lot of things with routines. Those, unless it involves direct instruction, those do not necessarily have to be up on your Google Classroom as recordings. If it's just you and your students singing a song and having a great time and laughing, you don't have to have that on there. But if you're doing something like, a math lesson, you've muted all your students, or they should be muted. They can turn their cameras off so that they don't flicker in the screen. That's what you should be recording. The rest of the stuff that kids are on there, they, unless it's part of that instruction that you really need, I wouldn't put that on there.
Now, we were told to record it, even if it's just you and another student, for our records, if a question comes up, if an allegation is made.
Oh, yes.
But we only need to push out and share to students instruction.
Correct. So what I mean by that is when you're doing a whole class lecture or a whole class, meet, right? Like a morning meeting, okay? Like your morning meeting has things that a student who is absent would need, but maybe there's some things like in between there that don't need to go out to everybody, right? It's just between you and that group of students. You don't have to post that. If it is one-on-one, I would be recording that. You have to record that. Just like you don't be in a classroom alone with a student or, with the door closed and that kind of thing. You can record anything you want, but if people are concerned about what is being put out there on the internet, then I would just edit your movies or record the sections that are instruction, so that way it's kind of limiting what it is that you're putting up there.
Can you record different sections and stop and start? I had a teacher who recorded her whole group.
Yeah.
And then in the same meeting, a student came in for some help. So she stopped the recording, and then she was doing an assessment with that student. So she started the recording again. But when she got her recording, it was the whole thing continuous on one recording.
Huh. Yeah. I thought you were able to stop and start. That's something I have to look into.
Okay.
But like I said, it's really easy. If you download it into iMovie and upload it, a solution around that might be to not have one continuous meet, but to have perhaps a nicknamed. So a nicknamed meet versus a calendar invite has the same privacy that a Google Classroom meet does, as far as students not being able to re-access that when you are not present, if you nickname it. So you might have a nicknamed one for questions or, like kind of that office hour feel. So if you have one going that is like your instruction, you could perhaps have another drop-in meet. You would just have to make sure you're muting both of the meets so you don't have the reverb.
And that could have just been a glitch that one time. So I do think we need to put that on our list as something that we try and see that we play around with it.
Definitely. I was under the impression that you could stop it and then it would stop the recording and you could start another. So I'm not sure about that one. Are we supposed to post live recordings? Yeah. So you're supposed to be posting the recordings of your instruction for students who are unable to attend. And of course, any one-on-one with a student. Yeah, Katie, good suggestion. For Mary Ann, she said it would be helpful to be able to stop and start. Yeah, so if you stop that meeting, as soon as you click the hang up button, then that video is processed and the chat transcript comes to you. So when you do a recording, you get the recording and the chat transcript. So that's done. If you want to keep reusing that meet code, then you just jump back in that meet, re-initiate the session, and then you'll get a different recording. What we were talking about is in the same recording, in the same meet without leaving and coming back, pressing record and stop, and then record and stop again. The recording, you have to be the first one into that. So when you have the nickname one, then you would be the first one that set up that meeting, and then you would get the recording. The student would not get the recording.
Yeah, and you don't need to share any of your one-on-ones. Those are just for your records to keep. The only video that you need to post for students is your instruction videos.
Correct. So Alyssa Gavin said, no, you're not posting one-on-ones. No. We're saying that there's a difference. So recording and posting are very different things. Recording is because it's the same thing. For legality reasons, when you are one-on-one with a student, record. Do not share that. You just keep it in your folder. We have unlimited space. No big deal. But you are to record and post instructions so that any student who is unable to attend or any student who needs a review can access that instruction that you've done that day.
What would you say to small groups? Because in the elementary, we're doing a lot of small group reading instruction. Mm-hmm. Would you post the recording of that instruction for one student who missed it? Or,
I personally would just keep the record of it. And I think that if there's an issue going on and that student wants to view those, I would work one-on-one with that student. But as far as posting it to the Google Classroom, I wouldn't, because then what's going to happen too is you're going to get, all these recordings, and then the Google Classroom is going to get really overwhelming for students. So I would probably just do that as an as-needed basis.
And you have supervisors that need access to those one-on-one recordings. I would say those are all going into a folder in your Google Drive. Put those all in one folder and share that folder with those supervisors that need access to it.
Yep.
We had a question too about what's the expectation for live recording.
Well, there's not an expectation. It's based on school. So your school is going to follow its daily schedule. So, if I don't know. So everyone's going to follow their schedule. And then within your own classroom, how you organize how many live recording or live sessions you do. So that synchronous learning versus asynchronous learning is kind of the way that you manage your classroom and the way that you set up your curriculum.
And I think the principals too have put out different expectations. Mm-hmm. So what my principal here at Darden is saying might be slightly different than what the principal at Measle is saying. So I think they're the decision makers on that kind of thing for you as a teacher in their school.
Yeah. And there was confusion. We had this discussion with my staff yesterday. Some were thinking they had to be live from 8 to 3. And so I made sure that it is, you have other recordings and work for the students. It's not something that you're live all day long.
No. And that's something that we don't want as well. It is not a healthy situation for anyone to be on that screen from 8 to 3. And people need breaks. And so, again, talk with your principal and whatever your school schedule is going to be and whatever those requirements maybe you have, maybe you don't have them. But no, being on screen from 8 to 3 is not in our guidelines. It is not an expectation. What we really want is a blend of off-screen and on-screen activities. We really want a blend of synchronous and asynchronous because these kids and these students should not be sitting in front of a screen. We all know that, unfortunately, wind down time usually involves a screen as well. So that's not what we want. We want them to be able to, work with manipulatives and get outside and read a book and, do those things that are that we kind of, that we do in a classroom as best as we can, and not just everything has to be digital. Just because we present the information digitally doesn't mean that the work has to be digital. For legal restrictions. So that's the case, then you are going to just tell that student to turn their camera off. They can mute their mic, and then nothing will be seen while that teacher is presenting. I would work with your principal, I would work with that parent, and I would talk with them. The reason that we are asking that recordings of instruction be recorded is so that the students who are unable to attend for whatever reason, we don't know what the future is going to hold for them, that they'll be able to access that instruction. And again, this is instruction. So it's not necessarily those times when you are, talking, or I should say, perhaps doing community building with your students or doing other things that maybe are kind of those that happen in a classroom that are not fully instruction based. I wouldn't be posting those. You don't have to post those if there's privacy concerns.
But you're recording them.
Yes, you have to record them.
Record
them. Right. If it were me, I would. This is my routine. I would record, and I would have my aide or whoever mute all of the students. And then I would take that, download it, edit it really quick. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just edit out some of those sections. And then I would post that onto my Google Classroom. Because for me, there's a lot of community building that is needed in a classroom, but this is a very unique time. And so I think that right now I would focus on just posting those pieces of instruction. That way those students can see that. They're going to get other opportunities. Other opportunities to engage with students. Correct. They turn their camera off. They can still type if they are able to type. If they're old enough to type, they can type in the chat. If a parent is with them, the parent could communicate. So that chat transcript is sent to you along with the recording.
And if you see that question in the chat and you think it's something important to your instruction, then you can just reiterate, give the answer to that question verbally, say the question, give the answer, and then it will be part of your recording.
Mm-hmm. Now I will say this, if you are recording in Google Meet, the chat and so what's recorded is the active speaker. So if I'm making a bunch of noise, but Barb is presenting, I get to be on camera and not teacher Barb. So what's being presented and the active speaker. If you are recording your screen through another method, like QuickTime, Screencastify, or some sort of other screen recording, then everything that you see is recorded. So you have to be careful because, if there are some major privacy issues and students are using that chat, then that chat is recorded in the video as well, if parents are concerned about those kinds of things. Are you doing I guess my question would be then to find out a little bit more detail. I think, if you're doing a one-on-one assessment, then that one-on-one recording isn't going to be shared. If you're doing a whole class assessment, then I would probably talk with your DIS and maybe figure out if there's something that you can do to accommodate that student. I would talk with your principal and make those accommodations for that student.
I think a lot of teachers right now are doing one-on-one assessments with their students, fluency and reading type assessments with their students. So if it's just the teacher and the student, and the parent is sitting there assisting, and the parent says, I don't want this recorded.
I would ask your principal. I would say, okay, I mean, obviously don't say, no, I'm going to record it. Tell your parents, say, okay, well, we can reschedule this. Let me talk with my principal. Talk it out with the principal, kind of figure some things out, do what's best. We don't know what people's reasonings are. So I would let them handle that. And then, reschedule if need, make accommodations, figure out what we can do to make it work for this parent. Okay, well, it looks like we're getting to the end. So it is 12:50, which is technically the end of our session. So if you need an eye break and a brain break and a Zoom fatigue break, feel free to do that and go ahead and get ready before your next session. If you have a few more questions, please, by all means, put them into the chat. And again, reach out to any of us. The three of us would be happy to take your emails. You can email your DIS, anyone. You have to generate a new code for each class. I'm sorry.
Lot of work up front.
Yes.
Less work later.
Exactly. I mean, so that's the one thing I will say, you know, I've been using Google Classroom for years now, and it's great because I reuse a lot of my posts for like similar projects or, you know, assignments that my kids are going to do. And so it is a lot of work at first, but then you're going to like have all those benefits of what happens when you do go through all that creation. Thank you, Lisa, for joining us.
I just wanted a reminder, we've had a lot of issues, I know, at my school. If you had your Google Classrooms from last year, please archive them. We are getting a ton of parents calling because the classroom from last year is there and now they have the new one. They don't know where to go. So just sending out that reminder. If you haven't archived last year's classrooms, please do that.
We're all nervous about NWEA in a few weeks too, Chrissy.
Yeah, but you know what? Like, I'm so proud. Like, thank you for sharing that because again, you know, we have to, I know we're all stressed out. Everybody's so stressed out. It's so new. And, you know, just taking that moment to recognize like parents are in this and students are in, you know, we all, of course, do things, but just giving them some shout outs. How strong of our students to be able to take this on, you know, and I really appreciate all these teachers who are putting in hundreds and hundreds of hours and sleepless nights. And, you know, please remember, like, take time for yourself. It's about self-care. Be the best you can be for your students, but it doesn't mean you have to be the best all the time. So give yourself some grace.
Bye, everybody. Have a really great weekend. Everybody deserves some fun and relaxation.
Get outside.
Close your computers for the weekend.
Yeah, close them, lock them, put them under your bed, whatever you need to do.
Yeah, have someone hide them in your house. That's what I would do.